So to do that. All right. So let's kick it off. I'm Shay. This is David with the Buy, Sell, Love Chicago team. And we are realtors here in the Chicagoland area for those of us who are joining local today. So we serve the Chicagoland area, so Chicago and the suburbs, kind of about, I would say, an hour outside of the suburbs in sort of a radius. David and I have been doing this far too long. We are over 2 decades combined between the two of us. We have a small team of a couple of agents, a bunch of assistants. We help about 175 families a year buy and sell real estate. And we really heavily rely on our partners that we work with. And one of those fantastic partners is Chad with Cross Country Mortgage. So Chad Lubben with the Lubben Group. And gosh, I don't even know how long we've been working together at this point. 8 years?
8 years. Yeah. I was looking at that the other day.
Long time. And so Chad is one of our favorite lenders in town. And one of the things that we say about Chad that we really love is when he sits down with clients to look at their pre-approval, he doesn't just look at how much can they actually afford to buy. Because when you go to those sessions and they're like, you can afford to buy $2 million and you own a hamster business and make $10, a year. And you're like, what? That makes no sense, right? It just makes no sense. So what I like about Chad is he looks at your whole financial picture and he talks about, are you saving enough for retirement? I don't want you to be house poor. What are the priorities for you? Are they to travel? Then we need to make sure you have enough money for that. And so he really helps you figure out how much you can afford to buy by looking at your whole financial picture. And I'm going to kind of let Chad share the story of his investing strategy and stuff like that. But over the years, he's gotten much more involved in kind of investing and learning about it. And so he started teaching this class. Was it last year was the first year, Chad, or the year?
That was the second year.
Second year.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, I took it last year and I found it to be so invaluable. So I hope you guys find it valuable today. David, do you want to add anything else?
No, I mean, the same thing is the biggest thing about Chad is he definitely takes a much bigger picture perspective on mortgages. A lot of, lenders really just like, here's the product, here's what we can do, let's move on. And Chad definitely has a much bigger sort of 360 picture on finances and mortgages. And I think today you're going to learn some very useful stuff. So I'm going to shut up and let Chad start because that's worth more.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your guys' partnership and all the kind things you said about me. It's so easy to work with you guys and your clients because you prep them so well. I just feel you're the best client caterers I've ever seen. You take such good care of your clients, and I know that you care that their finances are in order and that they achieve all their financial goals and that their home doesn't get in the way. So, what I respect about both of you, I'm pretty well educated. I went to the University of Iowa. Both Shay and David, even higher education than I have. And I think we can all agree, even with our education, we were never taught a budget. We were never taught how to invest. I think money is kind of a hush-hush thing, especially with my parents' generation. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't taught. And, that honestly, as I first became successful in the mortgage industry, built me an even bigger hole. So I get paid to do this presentation through coaching and through coaching mortgage lenders, coaching realtors. And one of the things that I'm taught when I am presenting is I have to share pain and be real. So some of this is painful for me, but growing up super poor, we never had a lot. So I never learned a lot about money. And I didn't think even if we would have had it, we wouldn't have talked about it anyways, right? So peeling apart my mother's finances, complete mess over the years, right? Peeling apart my finances in my mid-20s, early 30s. I dug myself over $100,000 of debt and I was making good money. So I just didn't know how to manage the money and no one had taught me these lessons. So I was lucky to pay off that debt. I've now turned that debt into almost $6.5 million in the stock market. It was a lot larger than that about 3 weeks ago, but we have to have a plan. So part of this is have a plan, stay the course, have your principles, and don't be emotional about it. And I know that's hard for some of us because money can make us emotional and it shouldn't. So I've had to follow this plan to grow that kind of wealth. And it's just day by day, month by month. So the first thing is you have to run a personal family budget and you have to be smart with your money. I love YNAB. I'm happy to share my Excel spreadsheet that I use. Yes, I still use an old school Excel spreadsheet to run my finances and my family's finances and my business's finances. So first you got to be able to count the money. You have to see what's left over. And I always think there's a choice once you do that, that you can either make more or save less, right? You can either make more or spend less is what I meant to say. So you can make more or spend less. And they're both a choice. So what do you do when you have that money? I think the main thing we always need to look at is live your life in thirds. So the first lesson I can give you is have ratios that you live your life in. A third of your money that you make should go to living expenses. That includes this new home. So if you work with Shay and David and you work with me, that's going to be one of the things we try and fit you in. We don't want your expenses, the house and all your other expenses, to be more than a third of your gross income. That leaves that second third. We have to pay the government about a third of our income, unfortunately. And then that last third, we want to use that last third to build the wealth. We want to use that last third to give to charity if that's important. It is very important to me. I know it is to Shay and David to give back to our communities. So live your life in thirds is kind of the first lesson. A third of your money should go to living expenses. A third of your money goes to the government for taxes. We want to save that last third. Where do we put that last third? I will share my screen. Here is the first plan to kind of follow. This is what I believe is financial balance and diversification. So you probably hear that word diversification a lot. That means don't put all your eggs in one basket. What has happened to the people that put all their money into crypto after the hype? Well, they're not having too much fun here these last couple months, and they probably lost a lot of it. So we have to make sure that we're following a plan. So I think the best plan is all of your real estate. You should not have mortgages that are more than 3 times your annual income. So we'll all be getting our W-2s. We either have them or we'll be getting them. Look at them, see what you, and if you have a significant other or your family, what the household income is. Multiply that by 3. Everyone's situation is unique and different, but you should be able to have mortgages that are about 3 times your annual income. So if you make $100 grand for your household a year, you can afford about a $300,000 mortgage. Okay, so how much ever you've saved up, add that on for the purchase price. So if you have another $100,000 to bring to closing, you're going to be buying about a $400,000 home. So that's kind of the first guardrail that you want to be in. And I think primary real estate, residential primary real estate, is one of the best investments. Depending on the areas, I've seen some areas go up 35, 40% just in the last 2 years. So it's crazy how much appreciation we've seen in primary real estate. And a lot of us that have owned homes 6, 8, 9, 10 years were finally paid off because it was pretty stagnant before that. So as you can see, as time goes along, primary real estate can really benefit you. And it should be about 3 times your annual income that you have on a mortgage. That's about what you can afford. We want to make sure after that we move to number 2. You want to have a reserve account. So you'll hear a lot of lenders, you'll hear a lot of financial advisors, you'll hear a lot of the talking heads just say, you got to put 20% down, you have to avoid PMI. I don't necessarily believe in that. Once again, everyone's situation is unique and different. If you can put 20% down and still have a reserve account, then yes, by all means, put the 20% down. But if that is stopping you from having reserves, Shay will tell you, David will tell you, when we buy homes, there's bound to be a few things that you need to change. There's furniture you didn't plan to buy on. I know I'm guilty of that on my last home I bought. There's all this furniture I needed to buy. And I'm like, gosh, that kind of depleted our reserve account. I probably should have budgeted a little bit better for that. There's going to be things when you move into the new home that you're going to want to change. Maybe some small things that go wrong, like a water heater goes out, or you need to do some roof maintenance, whatever that might be, whatever that maintenance is, you want to have some money left over so you're not borrowing to make those repairs. So this says $25,000 liquid in cash. I believe that's about the max that you should have. I think a better metric is 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. So kind of the second lesson I want to drive home is have 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses in a savings account. No less than 3 months, because I think COVID taught us things can shut down for a while and we might not always get paid, and we might have difficult months. We might have health issues that cause us not to work. So we need at least 3 months of our monthly expenses saved so we can withstand those type of just health issues or job layoffs or whatever it may be. We can weather that storm. I don't believe in any more than 6 months of your monthly expenses in a savings account. Believe it or not, the banks that you hold your savings account at are not there to pay you a good return. So if you look at the rate of return that the banks pay you right now, it's kind of funny that they're still keeping their interest rates that they pay on your savings account way down, but interest rates are starting to rapidly go up. So that is called inflation. The cost of our goods are becoming much more expensive. And that money sitting in your savings account, if you leave too much, it's actually devaluing right now. So you're actually losing money having it sit in a savings account, because the interest rate that they pay you versus inflation is coming up to about 5%. That the cost of goods have become higher. Your money's devaluing sitting in a savings account. So you don't want to leave absorbent amounts there. So I believe in 3 to 6 months. 3 if you're an aggressive investor like me, 6 months of your monthly expenses if you're a little conservative and it makes you feel cozy at night to have that extra money in your savings account. For me, money in my savings account's not good. It says spend me, go buy something new, right? So I need to get that money out and get it into the stock market. And I think the number one best investment in the world is a 401k. Over time, it's just really, really hard to beat. So this year you can give $20,500 to your 401k, which is an outstanding number. So everything you can do to max out your 401k, max out your Roth IRAs, that is the best area to save most of your money in. I like the 401ks because you put money in pre-tax, so I don't have to pay tax on it now. Most employers usually give a match, so you're giving free money. Okay. I like keeping my investments simple. So the 401k, I just put in the S&P 500 index. Okay. So I wanted to run a little model for you and just show you the power of saving over time in a 401k. And you might have heard this rule. It's called the rule of 72. So what the rule of 72 tells you is if you get a 7.2% return, your money will double every 10 years. And what you want to do is just continue to compound money in the 401k. So if you have $100,000, let's call it $50,000 in the 401k right now, and let's say you're putting $500 a month and then your employer matches you. So you're putting $1,000 per month and you get an 8% return. That's the average rate of return. Okay. I like putting my 401k just all in one loan index, or it's called an index fund, and it's the S&P 500 index. It's the best 500 stocks for our country, and the returns the last 3 years have been 31%, 18%, and last year 30%. Right. So if you calculate that, you're getting about a 25% return over the last 3 years. I think it's super safe to use 8. It has averaged 10% over the life of the stock market. So check out what this does for you. $1.2 million, right? And if you can kick it up to where you're saving $1,500 and you do that over 30 years, you're going to be over $2 million. So I'm 44 years old. I believe at my age, you need about $2.5 to $3 million to retire comfortably. $2.5 million to $3 million. That's what I believe you can live off the interest of your money, and you're probably going to spend all of this principal. If your life expectancy, let's say that makes you retire at 65, you're 35 now, then that's going to likely take most of your money. You're going to spend the principal, you're going to live off the interest. I think a very healthy and comfortable retirement by that age is $5 million. Okay, so that's about a $2,500 or a $3,500, excuse me, monthly savings that you got to do, right? Probably about 3,200. So that's like, hey, you're living off the interest, and if you live fairly conservatively in retirement, you're going to live off the interest of your money. I think generational wealth starts at 10 million. So generational wealth is your pile of money is never touched, and the generations, your kids, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren live off of the interest of that big pile of money. And that starts about $10 million. So if you're trying to achieve a great retirement, somewhere between 2.5, 3 million you want to get to. Okay. So that is, I think, the number one best investment in the area to get there is your 401k and your IRA. If you work with a great financial advisor, I have one. Shay's got a great advisor. I know David works with one. We would be happy to refer the people we know, like, and trust. Most of them are going to tell you to do what you can to max out your 401ks. It's not possible. Everyone's situation's different. Everyone's income's different, but do your best to get there. I don't really believe in investing in too much outside of that till you're maxing that out. So I consult my team and all my employees and a lot of loan officers across the country that I get the privilege of coaching and advising. I tell them max out your 401k first and then get into number 4. Okay. But this is the sexy area. This is the exciting area. This is where most of the fun happens, or most of the emotions, like right now, because the markets are getting beat up. So this is really investing in individual stocks. Okay. 5 stocks that you really like and trust. I will just tell you mine. I call them blue chip stocks. They're Apple, Amazon, Nike, Disney, and Costco. So I believe in the Warren Buffett method of picking stocks. Berkshire Hathaway, that Shay and David work for, an amazing company. I think the best financial mind in our country is Warren Buffett. That's the company that Shay and David work for. And he believes in you invest in products you know, like, and trust. Those are products I know, like, and trust. I wear Nike. I love Jordan stuff. I love going to Costco. It's the only store I'll go to. I use Apple products. I have 3 daughters. They love Disney. They watch Disney. Encanto, Shay, is on in our house every night. Every night I come home, the Encanto musical is on. So I see Disney a lot. I want to get some of that money back. And then my wife has Amazon boxes in front of our house every single day. So I better get some of that money back through Amazon. So the point of this is, hey, don't really get into these areas until you've maxed out your 401k. This is the safer area. You're going to make more money out of a longer period of time. Okay. So how do I invest in this area? I will give you some simple percentages. So this area takes the most discipline, but when you can get there, it's where the most wealth is accumulated. So I am 70% index funds. Okay. And I use 3 index funds. So in this piece of pie, right, after I've maxed out my 401k, so if you're saving more than $20,000 a year and you're in this area, I put 70% of that in index funds. The 3 index funds are the S&P 500, the Invesco QQQ, which is the NASDAQ. That gets you into technology, and it spreads your investments over many, many technology companies. And then I like the Russell VTWO. That is a small cap fund, or some people call it the Russell 2000. Those are small, some of them micro caps. Those can create some big returns. So 70% of my money goes in those index funds. It creates diversification. Okay. 20% go in these blue chip stocks. Those are the 5 stocks I mentioned: Apple, Amazon, Disney, Nike, and Costco. All have done very, very well here over the last year. Okay. And then 10% of the money I put into an E-Trade account that I manage. So those are the speculative stocks. Those are the home runs. I take risks with just 10% of my savings. So just to go back to the math, if there's $6.5 million in the stock market, I have about 650,000 in the E-Trade that I manage, right? And I thought I was pretty hot and doing really well, and like Shay going to fire my financial advisor, but the last about month has taught me otherwise. It's been getting beat up pretty well. So those, you're kind of playing for some home runs. So I think too many people risk their money in too high of just aggressive investments. Like I do own a little crypto. It's 0.5% of my overall money. It's just in a few that I've followed, I've tracked, but I'm not going to depend on anything. But it's like going to the blackjack table for me. I don't believe in investing in those hyper aggressive things with too much of my money. So I will dabble. I will put 1% capped in crypto. I will not put 20, 30, 40% like some people have. And those people are probably not very happy here this last month. So that is the main thing. So just to kind of recap, live your life in thirds, figure out what your monthly overhead is, how much it costs to be you per month. Your living expenses should be about 1/3 of that. The government will take another 1/3, and that last 1/3 should go into the stock market for wealth accumulation. If you save 20% of your money and never touch it, you're going to have a great retirement, and you're going to accumulate a lot of wealth. So a lot of people will break up that last 1/3, 23% to their savings, 10% to charity, churches, community charities. So just to recap, the main lesson is live your life in thirds. The second lesson was the rule of 72 that I showed you. Compounding interest is used against us on our credit cards. We're paying interest upon interest. That's how I racked up my $100,000 of debt that I had in my early mid 20s to late 20s. It was because I couldn't keep up, and the interest just kept piling up. So we want to use what those credit cards use against us to our advantage in the stock market. We want to make interest upon interest of our money. That's compounding interest. And the rule of 72 shows you the power of putting money in the stock market and having your wealth accumulate. And then just the third thing is have a plan, whether it's this wealth accumulator that I showed you here, or one that your financial advisor. This is just the plan that works for me. Doesn't make it right for everybody, but have a plan and don't deviate from the plan. Too many people get emotional. I am there with you. I'm a little emotional about the losses in the stock market here so far this year. It's a little hard to look at, but we just have to stay the course, keep saving. I will tell you, most of my money has been built by sending a check to my financial advisor. I do my budget, and at the end of it, the advisor gets a check every single month, and he has for over 8 years now. He's got a chunk of change for me. I have not missed for 8 years. And that's how I've been able to just accumulate the wealth that I have. And it's through the plan, it's through being disciplined, it's through being non-emotional in what the markets are doing.
So Chad, we have a question about what should someone use instead of a savings account? And I think he means for emergency fund. So if I'm incorrect, let us know about that. But I know that's a conversation you and I have had before because, I was looking for a high yield savings account. And then I decided I have this open line of credit that's a HELOC. And I was like, this is silly. Why do I have all this money in a savings account, literally losing money? I'll get rid of that and I can pull from my HELOC if I ever have to. So kind of talk about your philosophy around where people should put money, for their emergency fund.
Yeah, and I don't chase the big returns of money market accounts. Like Capital One has a very nice high yielding. I see a lot of bank statements from doing people's loans. I see that one to be the highest yield and the most liquid. Don't chase the returns there. Chase them in your 401ks, chase them in your investments. But Capital One seems to have the best. I just use my Chase savings account. It doesn't pay much. I don't really worry about it because I only keep 25 grand in it.
And can you just delve in a little bit more about, I know obviously you said with stocks, you pick things that you like to spend money on, and places you like to go. Do you do deeper research than that at all on them? And if so, what do you look at?
Yeah, I do on, I do read the reports on E-Trade. So the thing I like about E-Trade is if you search the stock, you can look through all the analysts and what they say about it and what their thoughts are and predictions. It will break out. There's about 6 really good analysts: Morgan Stanley, Thomas Reuters, Morningstar. There's a lot of different stock analysts that will write up a lot of research. And that's a great question. Make sure you're comfortable with it, right? Like there's a few companies, I was in Lockheed Martin, big weapons supplier, and it's just not what I believe in. It doesn't fit with my ethic and morals. I don't care what return I get on. I don't want to support that type of business, right? So it's something I have to believe in. I have to believe in the CEO. I have to believe in the product. I have to use it. And I would encourage you to research the stock through E-Trade. There's really nice. Robinhood has the same, where you can see what the analysts say about it.
And at what point would you recommend people get a financial planner? I know for me that was kind of a hard question. It was like, what point how much money do I need to have a financial planner make sense? And, do you have any tips for people on questions they should ask a financial planner or research they should do before they pick a financial planner? Because that was a whole world for me that I knew nothing about.
Great question. You had a great question about that a couple of years ago. I remember that conversation. Hopefully there's no financial advisors on. I'm taking business from them, but I just have to be honest. I don't think you need one until you've maxed out your 401k. I think you can put in 401k, put in the S&P 500 index, and that's going to do better for you than most financial advisors. So I love that you say I play the returns game with the financial advisor. I do the same. He's got to beat what I'm doing in my E-Trade, what I'm managing. He's got to beat the S&P 500 index. Otherwise, over time, why am I paying him?
What about having a fee-based financial planner coming in and sort of doing an assessment, sort of seeing where you're at, as opposed to doing, an ongoing, they're taking a percentage of your assets under management. So that's they already have to hit that 1 or 2% just to make up the deficit with their expenses.
Yeah. I think fee-based financial advisors do a really good job. I think it's important to see what their performance is and ask them for previous performance. So one thing that I did to pick my financial advisor, it's just the way I'm wired. They have to make more than me. They have to have more money in the stock market than me. I made my advisor prove it. I can't take advice from someone that has less than me or hasn't done as well in these areas as me. So I made it a requirement to see their tax returns, see their personal investments, and to see their track record. So that's how I picked mine. I don't have a lot of experience with fee-based financial advisors, but since they made that change a couple of years ago, there are definitely a lot of them out there, and I see a lot of people using them.
I think, when people are sort of early stage in their sort of in their careers and don't have as many assets, but want to figure out how they should be divvying up sort of portions in terms of what should be going towards home. Obviously, intergenerational rent wealth and wealth transfer, real estate is like 60% of it in the country. So that's sort of first and foremost, and then you sort of fill in that. But it's hard to assess that. And I have to say the most useful thing you've ever shared with me is for getting me to budget. I don't necessarily budget all my expenses every month. Maybe I should. I finally, at 50 now, I'm paying attention to my expenses, so I don't need that. But, every month I track where all my positions are, everything is at. So not only, because otherwise I think I would just look and say, oh, this is what's in my account. Well, I don't get credit for a lot of that. I don't get credit for the market, but being able to assess how much I've actually saved and such, it makes a huge difference, or how much I'm down. I think budgeting and it's really basic. I use like a basic, the same spreadsheet you gave me.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where you're going or where you've come from, I don't think, without a good budget.
Yeah. And just to kind of further motivate people to save of the money that I've accumulated since I got out of the debt and started investing, I've saved half of it. The other half has been growth. So literally in 7 years, it's really been since I got out of the debt and started power saving and investing. It's doubled in 7 years. So that rule of 72 has been accelerated. It's been less than 10 years. It's been 7 years.
And how do you feel about 529s? I know you and I have talked about this, and almost everybody who's attending today has young kids. So what's your feeling about 529s? Where does that fit into your savings and your chart of kind of the 4 categories?
Great question. That is part, and I'm glad you said that because I didn't cover that. The scary part is I ran a analysis. I went to the University of Iowa, I told you all, and it would be out of state now for my 3 daughters. And they believe for my 3 daughters to go to school in 20, or some of them in 15 years, the baby in 18 years, that it will cost me 1.3 million for 4 years for 3 kids. So that sounds super scary. But when we broke it down, it was $850 a month, which is a lot of money. But I know many of us have to pay daycare costs, and we get used to paying that cost. So my best advice there is, if you are paying daycare or childcare, just get used to putting that money in a 529 plan, and it will come pretty close to covering a good portion of college, if not all the college. 529 plans, you put the money in, you're not taxed on the growth, and you can pull the money out tax-free in college. What they've changed is, if you go to private schools or have tuition now, you can take the money out if you need it, tax-free.
And I would add to that, that is state dependent, because I know some, like Illinois, I think allows you to do that, but some states do not allow you to take it out for private schools. So you have to look, if you're not in Illinois, look at your state to see if they allow that or not. Are there certain, I know you don't have to invest in the state that you live in. So, do you invest where you live, or are there certain 529s that you think are better than others that people should take a look at?
I'm a big American funds fan. I think they have a great track record. They're the oldest mutual fund in our country. Some of the top analysts and stock pickers work for them. They just have a very long track record. That's the state of Virginia's program, is the American Fund program. I've just always liked what they stand for and their track record and their long-standing history. So I use that one.
And where would you put in saving for retirement versus saving for a 529 versus investing in the stock market? Because what's the adage that, like, you can't finance your retirement, but you can finance college, kind of a thing. So where do you, which ones do you recommend people do in what order?
Yeah, I think it's smart to have a game plan from, like, when your kids are born, of what you're going to do for them, right? Is it like, I didn't have any of my college paid for. It wasn't a choice for me, right? Some people have all their college paid for. So I think it's formulating a plan, sticking to that plan, say, well, we're going to pay for half, or we're going to pay for 4 years of in-state. And that would be the one spot I would encourage everyone to talk to a financial advisor. And there are calculators online that you can see what college inflation, if it keeps up, is going to cost you in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
And I know one thing that's cool I like about the 529 is you can super fund it, so you can put in, because typically the max gift amount you can put in for each child is $30,000 a year. So you can do a 5-year lump sum upfront of $150,000 right off the bat, which is what Nobu and I did. And then that way, you're getting those 5 years of returns over the course of the time, rather than the $30,000 each year. And I know for us, we look at it as really also a way to build generational wealth. So we're planning on, continuing to fund that 529 after Oliver, my son, finishes college, because then you can take that 529 and move it to somebody else's name. And so then the plan is, he better have a child, because this is the plan. Is that, I know, with my 5-year-old, that he, will move it to that child's name, and it'll continue to grow. And by the time that child goes to college in, 60 years, since my kid is 5 and isn't having a baby anytime soon, at least not over my dead body, that we'll be able to fund their college as well. So I think there's some cool generational things you can do with 529s.
Yeah, and people get confused that they think they have to use it for college. And let's say Oliver gets a full ride, or, there's, starts the next Apple at age 16 and doesn't go to college, right? Maybe he's Jeff Bezos at age 16. Who knows what he's going to become? But you don't have to use it for college. If you take the money out, it's just like a normal investment, like a mutual fund. You just pay capital gains on the growth. So you can pull the money out for other reasons. You just get taxed on it. If you prove you use it for college, you don't get taxed on it.
Now, so one more question I had was the 10% of your portfolio that you play in E-Trade, are those the ones that you're investing in, the ones you said like Costco, Amazon, Disney, or do you pick some riskier stuff in there, and how do you pick those and what are you investing that in?
Yeah, so I have my financial advisor really handle the 70% index funds, the 20% blue chip stocks, and then I manage the other 10% of the wealth, and that's mostly speculative and growth stocks. So it's stuff like iCAD's a company I really like. It's a device that's early breast cancer detection for women, right? So it's just this breakthrough that if it hits, it's going to change a lot of lives. I like investing in disruptors, they're called, just things that are going to change our life if the idea comes through. But it is a risk, right? So it's only 10% of the money.
And are you typically day trading those stocks, or are you looking at stuff that's going to be more long term? Like how often are you buying and selling those?
Yeah, it's a little bit of trading, not a lot. I have a rule that if I'm down 35% in any of the stocks it sells, so it limits how much my losses can be. And if it's up 100%, I take my initial investment off the table. So if I invested $10,000 and I've made $10,000, I'm kind of taking my chips off the table at the blackjack table. I'll go put those, I use it to pay down my mortgage, or I do something super conservative with it. So I'm not going back to the casino twice. That's just kind of the way I look at it. But yeah, those are the rules that I stand by. And you'd be surprised. I mean, investing in there in COVID, getting in some of the hotels and the airlines, and Microsoft got really beat up. There were some pretty big names that had some monster returns last year or over the last 2 years.
And is there a certain platform? It sounds like, like I tend to just go through Charles Schwab, where I have my other accounts that my financial advisor manages. It sounds like you have a separate E-Trade account for these things, so are there certain platforms you recommend people, who are new to investing would be better for?
I like Robinhood a lot because you can buy fractional shares. So some of these stocks are really expensive, like Amazon's $3,300 a share. A lot of people can't afford to buy that, but then you can buy fractional shares. So I like Robinhood a lot for newer investors, and the research is on there is really good. I use E-Trade. You can't buy fractional shares on there, but I like the platform, and I like just the data that you can find on it.
And we'll ask last couple of questions and then we'll let you go. I know something we've really started doing with this year with Oliver is trying to teach him about investing. Do you do that with your kids at all? And do you have any tips for, people on the call? Because most of the people on the call have young kids, about how to teach their kids about this. Because this is what we were talking about. Like, we weren't ever taught this as kids, and it was a very closed conversation in our house about finances, and your house as well. So how do you do that with your family? How does that conversation go with your kids?
Right. Yeah, we do make them budget. We give them money for chores. And then when Kristen, my wife, and I do our budget, we bring the girls in. We talk about what some of the expenses are. My mentor that taught me this said he used to make his kids write the check, put the stamp on the envelope, and mail it in for the light bill. Like, hey, lights aren't free. Like, this is the check going out, right? So that's a little old school for me, but I like the lessons. We try and keep it super simple because the twins are 6 years old. So I always make them give me 10% of their piggy bank from their chores. And we give that to our church and make sure they know it's going to church. And then I give them a 20% return on their piggy bank. So I give them the choice. You can spend it. Here's the toys. I try and do a little flash in front of them to see. My twin that's like Kristen always decides to spend it and buy the toy. The one like me always saves it and wants the interest. So we just give them 20% on whatever's in their piggy bank if they decide to save it.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think, I'm a little bit older, back when I was like, you had a passbook and interest rates were so much higher. Inflation was greater. You went into the bank and you got significant interest. I mean, you're getting 8, 9, 10%. It's really hard with kids today to see that. The fact that you're sort of, working the books there to make it, palpable and sort of, and come up, because it's just much, when you're 0.001% interest on a savings account, there isn't much incentive.
Yeah, my one daughter's saved up $70 in her piggy bank now. So that 20%, like, whoa, I'm giving her $15. This is getting a little much.
Yeah, I know with Oliver, we opened up like a UTMA account for him where we can put money. So we put part of his allowance in. So we make him save 40% of his allowance every week that he has to invest in the stock market. And so every month we take that money, put it in there, and then he has to research stocks with me. So we'll go on the Schwab site, ask him what stocks he's interested in right now. It's Hasbro because he likes Transformers. So we'll look at the history, and it's a terrible stock. And he's like, I don't care. I still want to invest in it. I love Transformers. And I'm like, but it loses money. And he's like, I don't care.
I'm buying low, Mom. I'm buying low.
Exactly. So we've been investing in that. So we've been tracking it now for months, and every month seeing him lose more money in it, and then, I made him do Disney and some of these others, so that's been kind of a good lesson for us. Any final tips? We'll hop off in about 1 minute. So any other tips you have for people before we sign off?
I think just being on a budget every single month, I'm sharing a lot of pain. I know this is live. I can honestly say if I wouldn't have fixed my finances, I was in so much fear after I built up the debt. I was just getting married when I was getting paid it off. So I was super controlling when I first got married about the money because I was so scared about it, right? So the running a budget, our rule in our house is we do a budget meeting. We do it at the very beginning of the month. We figure out how much we brought in, how much has got to go out, and then we make a decision on what's going into the stock market, what's going to charity. And our rule is once the meeting's done and all the bills are paid, we can't talk about money the rest of the month. So it stopped us from fighting about money, and that's the number one cause for divorce. So I can honestly say that fixing this and having a meeting and getting on a budget saved my marriage. Because I'm sure she would not have stayed around for how controlling and just cheap I was about everything, right? It just wasn't fun. So that live your life in thirds and just make sure you're putting money into the stock market every single month. Make sure it's money that you don't need for at least 5 years because it is going to fluctuate, and we can't have all the up years and not have down years. And just if you are in a bad spot or you don't know where to start, this is my passion. I was very lucky to have someone pour into me and teach me these lessons. I feel obligated to give them back to people because it saved my financial life. And I'm happy to get on a one-on-one call, look through your budget, just help you in any way I can. And just lastly, we got a great network of professionals between David, Shay, and I that will take excellent care of your money and that we trust with our own money.
And I just put Chad's contact information in the chat box if anybody wants to reach out to him. Chad, thank you so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Please follow up with him if you have any questions about finances, wealth building, if you need to get pre-approved, if you want to refinance, any of that kind of stuff. Please feel free to reach out to David and I if we can help you with any real estate related needs. And we will let you all go. Have a wonderful evening. And thanks for joining us tonight, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Bye.